All right. I'm David Magee. It's a Little Crazy podcast. With me, as always, the Phoebe Goodwin.
That's me.
Yes, it is. Phoebe, do you know one interesting thing about me that I'm told? And you don't always have to believe everything people tell you about yourself, but probably we should. I'm often told by people that know me best that I'm not easily impressed. Particularly by leaders, and I think that's true. Mm-hmm. And it's not that
I can see that.
Yeah, I'm not. But leadership's hard.
Yeah, for sure.
There is somebody that is I'd put on a hero list that I've really paid a lot of attention to, and I've had people over the years say, "This is." Somebody once stopped me. It was probably 3 years ago. They said, "This person who's a guest on this show, this person is probably your best friend you don't even know about." She's one of the hottest coaches in women's basketball.
Yeah,
She's
she is.
my number one. We are going to welcome to the show Coach Yo.
I am honored and excited to be on the infamous
Oh.
show today. Honored.
I mean, you don't even need more. Officially, I guess you're Yolett McPhee-McCuin.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But really, you're Coach Yo.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt.
Have you? When did the Yo thing emerge? Like when you were a child?
Yeah, that's a Bahamian. Like when I was growing up in the Bahamas,
Yeah.
and actually they call me Yo-Yo.
Oh.
Yeah, but so when people say Yo-Yo, I know that's
You
like
know
someone
it's
know,
from
they
home.
know.
Yeah, I know.
If you
they
know,
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yo,
Yeah.
yo.
So you're
Yeah.
Bahamian American.
Yes. I just got newly naturalized 3 years ago.
Did you?
Wow.
Proud
I did
to
not
be
hear
American.
that. I love that. So
Yeah.
how did that's got to feel? That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I just figured like all my businesses here in the United
Yeah.
States, and what was
I'll
holding
say.
me up, I did not want to give up my citizenship, but I found out that you don't give up your citizenship, so you can have both.
Nice.
And so,
The best of both
yeah,
worlds.
so I jumped on it right away because I'm the national team coach for the Bahamas.
I did know that.
And I didn't want it to be a conflict of
Yeah.
interest. And so once I found that out, because I live here, my family's here,
Yes.
my kids are born here, so I'm like,
Yes.
oh, I gotta go ahead and get this done.
Yeah. So I want to talk about, speaking of the Bahamas, and I'm just going to get right down to the core of it. I'm so struck by you in so many respects. And when you see somebody so beautiful, it's got such qualities of you always need to look upstream a little bit. And you have these parents that I've never met. Phoebe, let me just tell you what I see on paper about these parents. One, a mother in the Bahamas, a school principal.
Yep.
The other, a father, a basketball coach. And one is named Moon, nickname Moon. The other, her name is Daisy.
Yeah.
Moon and Daisy,
Yeah.
principal and basketball coach.
Wow.
How could you have anything but a winning Coach Yo?
Yeah, it's funny. My daddy, he wanted me to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And my mom, she never really said what she wanted me to do, but I always saw leadership in the household without them telling me. It was more so from action, and and philanthropists. I mean, the whole nine. So I had a chance to watch two phenomenal leaders, and my dad is getting a highway named after him next week.
Wow.
I
Come
know.
on.
He has a
Let
highway.
me check these
I
chill
know,
bumps
I
out.
know.
Okay, I didn't even know that was coming. Your dad is getting. Do I need to go to the Bahamas
You
to,
do. Yeah,
to
you
see
need
this?
to check it
I
out.
need to. For real? For
Yeah.
real?
He's getting a highway named after him. He has a park named after
Wow.
him. They're both retired, but my dad's 70. My dad's 78, and every Saturday morning when he's in the Bahamas at 9 a.m., he's on his court developing kids
Wow.
through basketball. Yep,
Wow.
at 78.
Is that right?
I know.
This is where Coach Yo comes from.
Exactly.
This
Exactly.
is where Coach
Yeah.
Yo comes
Yeah, yeah.
So you get to the University of Mississippi. It's 2018, and I'm somebody, what you probably don't know is, like a lot of people in media like me, I started out a long time ago as a sports writer. I spent a lot of time when I was young around the Ole Miss women's program when Van Chancellor had them, and then the program, which happens to programs, you have ebbs and flows, and the program is down when you arrive. I mean, down.
The bones were good, but
the
that was about it.
the bones were good, but there was some visits to the emergency room.
For sure.
Let's just be honest.
For sure.
And you're coaching at Jacksonville then, and so you before we get on the air, so to speak, you kind of made a reference to it might not have been the first choice, but
right.
I was.
Yeah.
But you didn't let that bother you, and you didn't let that stop you.
No, and I just think it's how I was raised, just with a level of humility. So I never felt offended. I just wanted to shoot my shot. And so, a funny story, the head coach at Mississippi State for volleyball was at Jacksonville. And the same search firm had the search for women's basketball.
Is that right?
And so she said, just call the search firm. I'm like, are you serious? She's
SEC
like, no.
school, call them.
She was like, just call the search firm and shoot your shot. What's the worst that can happen? And I did that. And that is how I got the job. Like, I reached out to them.
Wow.
Well, I've heard that. I'm friends with Ross Bjork, who was the athletic director at the time, and I remember talking to him, and I was like, dude, you made like a stunning hire there because you just brought – I mean, I knew you were bringing basketball. I knew you were bringing more than energy and optimism, but there was that, and there was something that you don't always see in coaches, that you were like, I'm me. I'm me, and I'm here to coach and lead this game, and you were pretty comfortable being you. And he said, you know what, David? He pretty much said that. I mean, she kind of came to us, but what happened is we talked to her.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And when he hired me, I said, Ross, I'm going to make you look like a genius. I'll never forget it.
Sister.
So every time I see him, I said, I told you.
You're welcome.
We do. I'm serious. I've had more people, and somebody really, it was several years ago, just really grabbed me and said, you can't put this off any longer. You got to get with Coach O. And you were busy and I was busy.
Right.
Okay, so you get here and you start building a program. I'm going to ask you something. I hope it's not from me, so don't let it hurt your feelings. It's from somebody that said this to me, and it kind of hurt my feelings for you.
Okay.
You get here and you're bringing optimism. You're bringing this just, we can do this. It's not going to be easy, but we're going to do it. I ran into somebody who'd been to one of those games the first year, and I said, well, how did that go? And he said, and he meant well, but we all get these tags. He said, man, she's got a lot of enthusiasm, but I'm not sure yet if she can coach.
Right, yeah.
And, we all have our tough professions, but you're a competitor. How does something like that feel? I mean, I know because I watched it. You inherited a program that the bones were good, but there wasn't much else. But coaching just comes with its own level of pressure and unfairness. And so how do you deal with that? Or how did you?
And scrutiny. The year we went 0-16 in year 2,
yes,
I opened up the Daily Mississippian, and
yes,
I was on the front page saying that I need to be on the hot seat.
Yeah.
But luckily,
you're like, hello, I just got here.
Right. But luckily for me, I had already had success at Jacksonville.
Yes, you did. NCAA team in Division I at Jacksonville.
Yeah, and made history, and like all of my players are in the top of the history book. I have the all-time leading scorer, all-time leading rebounder. So I was pretty confident coming in, but I must say,
and you had that mother and father background of you knew who you were.
And I know whose I am, and so for me,
I love it.
For me, it was just par for the course. But I have to be transparent. It was a very dark time.
Yeah.
Because I had just won so much.
Yes.
And this was a dream to coach at a Power 5 school at the time. And then I come and no one's taking it easy on me. I'm getting my head beaten.
Because the league at the time, Phoebe, right?
my
the
goodness.
SEC women, I mean, it had always been the powerhouse league, but there is this surge happening.
Yeah.
And it's not just Starkville at the time.
Yeah.
It's not
I
just
mean,
Knoxville. I mean, the entire league is getting stacked top to bottom, and you're just
I'm
trying
getting-
to get something on the bones, and y'all are getting off the plane and going, and people are coming at you.
Yeah, they were. And so this is a part of it. I mean, coaches, we all have tough skin. We're human, but we know what messages to listen to and which ones to filter out. That's just a part of the game. The ones that let what people's opinion that have never been in a practice, whether it be good or bad, if you let that get to you, it never works out as it should.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not only meaning negative, even positive. You have to kind of stay pretty even keel.
Yeah, and being in a role that was for so long dominated by men.
Yeah.
Even women's
Even
team
coaching
coaches
women's
were always
teams.
men. And so obviously you're a public figure in Oxford. You walk around, people see you. They know who you are. You can't really get out of the spotlight.
No.
So do you have a community of coaches, or what does your community looks like where you do get to deal with those things in a private way?
Yeah, man. Well, shout out to my husband, Kelly McPhee-McCuin.
Yeah.
He was number one in the whole thing. Like, it would be nights that I would just curl up in bed and just, like, I couldn't even cry. I would just moan. You know, like it was just the pain of defeat and the embarrassment. And he would just hold me, you know, and and not even say a word. And then I had a lot of coaches from the men's side that were big in my time, just helping me through. A lot of coaches in the league that knew what I was going through, and of course they wanted to beat me, but they also felt like
They
In
see
that
parts
year,
of
they-
themselves in you.
you know,
In that year
because
they
Especially as
did,
the
but
new
because
girl.
I don't know any better. I don't know that I'm
Right.
coming to Mississippi,
Right.
and I have to not only build a program that needs to win, but
Yes.
also defy some of the rhetorics that are out
Yeah.
there about
Absolutely.
Mississippi
Oh,
and
no
and
doubt.
Oxford. You know, I had never been here. I didn't know about it. So when I first came, I'm thinking, wow, this is a phenomenal place.
Yeah.
I'm from the Bahamas. I did not study American history. Well, let me tell you something. I didn't realize that the Southeastern Conference
Yes.
has some history
There's
that
some
that is
history
not
that-
good.
That you
there's
walk
some
past
history.
on campus every day.
Yes.
So how did you deal with that as
Well,
someone coming?
So when I realized I couldn't get recruits right away
Right.
because their grandmothers didn't want them to come.
Saying,
And said, whoa, you're not coming to Mississippi. I'm like, what is going on? So I started to educate myself. And as I educated myself, I started to humble myself and realize what I was up against. And then I came up with a plan. And that was my 4-year plan. And the first year was to assess the situation. The second year was to build a foundation. And in year 3, it needed to be proof of concept. And year 4 would just be putting it all together and seeing if we could continue with that plan. And it kind of worked out that way. After year 2, we signed the number 1 recruiting class in the SEC, going into year 3, and then and we went to postseason, and then and then it's history.
The
after that.
rest is history.
I'm in year 7 now.
You're in year 7,
Yeah.
and you were becoming one of those deans in the SEC, which is the SEC in all sports. We know is a powerhouse. There is truly something happening in women's basketball right now. The crowds are surging.
that no one has ever seen
that
before.
we've not
the most
seen
watched
before.
Yes.
game
Yes.
all year was
Yes.
LSU
Yes.
and Iowa,
Yes.
right?
And when we went to the SEC meetings, and ESPN put it up, it had beat all of football, everything.
Beat all of it, breaking all the standards, all the things people thought they
So
knew.
it was pretty cool.
And you have a big role in that
Yeah.
because now you are one of the deans in the league, and you're coming into a year. So let's be clear, that plan did work.
Yes.
You got
Thank God.
to the Sweet 16 in a big upset, big win. Got to the Sweet 16, and then last year spent a lot of time in the rankings. Had a very good season. and this year you're entering and you're not having to ask for that respect now in the league. I mean, everybody across the board has you picked in the top tier, and I realize the season has to be played, and this episode comes out with the season just starting in November. We'll talk in March, right?
Yeah, right.
We'll talk in March, but it does show that back from that day in your second year when the student newspaper is asking that question, when that gentleman is saying to me, you got your plan in place, you have the results.
Yeah, for sure.
The program is running.
Yeah, I never questioned. It's funny, David. Even when we were losing, I would leave the game. I was so nice. I would leave the game and say, I out-coached that coach. I just didn't have the Jimmys and the Jessicas and the Janes. I didn't have those. And you have to have the Jimmys and the Joes if you want to win. I don't care how good of a coach you are.
You have to.
Yeah.
It's still a numbers game.
Right, and it's still talent.
Not referring to players as numbers, meaning, but you have to have the talent to match up position by position.
Absolutely. And so from a strategy standpoint, I always felt prepared. My team knew what to expect. We game plan, but I just couldn't put the ball in the basket.
You couldn't put the ball in the basket.
I always felt good. It was just such an embarrassment because it was out in the open, and then you had trolls attacking me nonstop, and so
and you're like, well, you don't understand that the loss. I'm hurting too.
Yeah.
My thoughts and what I wish I had done and regrets are punishing myself. And then I look on Twitter and see
it was pretty rough.
And let's be honest. I mean, you're not saying it, but I'm going to say it. I mean, you said, well, in Mississippi, I'm like, wait, what I'm up against, there's this history. I didn't really learn that when I was in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to figure that out. But, I mean, you're walking into a situation where you're a female coach. And as Phoebe noted earlier, sure, that seems pretty natural. You're coaching a women's sports. But even still, there's been a lot of that.
And there still is.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And on paper, for a lot of the way SEC coaches have looked for the previous 50 years, you look different on demographically in some of those. And here you are. And so when you go 0-16, it's easy there are trolls, there are others, and it's easy to take some shots, but it takes some resilience for you. I tell everybody, people say, you've been through hard stuff. It's amazing you're doing so well. And I'm like, see, that's what resilience is.
That's what resilience
We are
is.
carved from that stone.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have the success today without having to. Maya Angelou used to talk about having to crawl across the floor.
Yes.
And I think if you hadn't been curled up in your husband Kelly's arms to get to that next day, maybe you don't get here to get to that Sweet 16 and have some of the fruits of that labor.
And that's why I appreciate every win. I appreciate every time I pull up to my office. There's a level of joy and gratitude that I have. And I do want to say this. There was a community in Oxford that wrapped their arms around me.
For sure there was. And I saw
first
that.
Couple years,
There's
too.
no doubt.
And they never wavered. And
They
those
never
people
wavered.
are still here today.
I watched that, and I've seen that, and it's interesting because that was the foundation of your first support.
Yes.
And what's funny now is you just adding all these bricks on top of that. Well, I came into that arena a couple of times this past year and thought, there's something
It was rocking.
happening
Yeah.
here.
How have you seen growth within the university from learning? I mean, the dark history of who built the buildings at Ole Miss and on their campus. How have you seen the university grow in ways that you're proud of?
Well, I've always felt that the university has been intentional about trying to not rewrite history, but show that was a thing of the past. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I do. We'll learn from this. We'll grow from this.
Yeah, and then the leadership has really been superb on that, and I think as athletics and social media has helped with this. As it started to grow and the spotlight became on, some of the things that all universities may have done, you can't sweep under the rug anymore.
That's right.
So it's
That's
out in
right.
the open.
It's there.
And you have to deal with
Yes.
it. And I thought a pivotal time was when George Floyd died and had the mishap. And it was during COVID, but the place erupted. That's when the state flag got changed.
Yeah.
The statue got taken out?
Yeah, I mean the whole night. And so, but our administration, and that's from the chancellor down, and the AD, Keith
I agree
Carter,
with that.
has always been intentional about diversifying the group. I just know for me, I take my role and my visibility I take responsibility in making sure that one, we continue to diversify spaces. We try to fix things that are wrong, and we're not perfect, but you know, I definitely feel like Ole Miss has been intentional about trying to get right wrongs. Even
That's
today.
well said.
You know?
100%. Yeah, no, I love
and
that.
always try to learn, always try to be better, always try to improve, because we have so far to go even now, and we have so much to learn about everyone and all of our, even with mental health and just all of these different things. And I think, that's a really good word.
Yeah.
So when you're out there, I'm gonna put you in two scenarios, and tell me about your feelings and emotions when you're in these scenarios. Here's one. Part of when you work hard and you get the rewards, it becomes a different kind of hard. So here's a scenario. We talked about the 0-16, but here's a scenario when you start expecting things. Last year, maybe say, was it LSU, or you went to the road to South Carolina? So maybe LSU comes to town. Correct me if I'm wrong. The arena's packed.
Yes.
I mean,
Capacity,
record crowd,
capacity.
crowd. Your team plays well.
Yeah.
They don't get the win.
Yeah.
Because guess what? You don't always win.
Right.
And so take me through what losing feels like in that scenario versus what it feels like on the 16th loss of an 0-16 conference season.
Well, by the time we got to loss number 16, this is going to sound crazy, but this is the truth, and you're good because no one has ever asked me this. I felt like it was how the story needed to be written. Like when that last buzzer sounded for our 16th loss, I said, it is well. I promise you. I
believe you. I understand what you're saying.
You know what? This is what it is.
Yes.
And this is what it needed to be. My perspective was just acceptance and knowing that we needed to work. Now, LSU comes in. We take the lead. And then, you know, they beat us.
Really exciting at the end. Took the lead. I remember it well.
And they beat us. And then my thought is we still have work to do. So it's just always a journey.
Yeah.
It just depends on the placement.
It feels different. You feel the loss. You take it because you're reaching to get to a different place.
Exactly.
I'm so down with what you're talking about the story being written on 0-16 if it needed to be. Because
and how
you
much
can
growth
always,
there was.
Yeah.
You know, you went from 0 wins
right.
to almost beating one of the best women's teams in LSU's history.
I mean, we had South Carolina in overtime.
You did. Yes.
We're knocking on the door, and
we're
we're continuously counted out. I just think, and that's Ole Miss, right? People never give us the benefit of the doubt.
I tell a lot of times when I'm asked questions about this university out and about, I always respond, look, I've been here a long time. We're underdogs, and we always have been underdogs, and I'm okay with that.
Me too.
Everyone loves a good
underdog
underdog.
Sure they do.
Me too. And you know what? And it takes a certain type of person to want to be at Ole Miss and play at the University of Mississippi. And those are the ones that want to roll up their sleeves.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And they'll grow with it just as you are and just as I have.
Absolutely.
Okay, here's another scenario.
Okay.
After the LSU game, you have a home game. You'll remember this one. I know. You know where I'm going. You have a home game. Because the thing about us people with strong personalities, with infectious personalities, is we
in trouble sometimes.
We can put our foot in our mouth. I mean, we can. So it's after the LSU game, record crowd. Then another SEC team comes to town, Florida. And they're all good in the SEC. And Florida comes, and things don't quite. You know, the thing about a big up is sometimes you're going to get a little bit of a down in the team. I'm not saying in the team end, but the crowd is smaller.
Oh, yeah.
The crowd is smaller.
I'm like, we won that game.
No, you won. No, I think that was the thing.
Yeah.
No, the team was
crowd.
not down.
Yeah.
The team comes in, the team delivers a win, but the crowd, after an all-time record, is not there. And your emotions on that, I saw it. I believed I knew right where it was coming from. You were speaking this passion for these players who are putting their soul on the line, who you have been following your plan for 4 years. And you took a stand that effectively said publicly, look around, folks. There's something big happening in this league, and where are you? We need you.
Yeah.
So
do you want to be a part of it or not?
Yeah, well, here's the thing, and David,
I have to ask you
you're
some
a piece
tough.
of work. Here.
I got to ask you the tough
So
ones,
what's your
Coach.
question? What's your question?
Yeah. So what's going through your mind at that?
Yeah. Oh,
moment?
Here's the thing. I'm a passionate person.
You
anyway.
are, and I love that about you.
And
Don't change
it's
it.
It's a good and a bad thing.
Sure.
But my thing, first of all, I didn't know that I was gonna go viral.
I know.
To the point where I had people like, and Carmelo Anthony, like big NBA stars, message me and said, "Man, keep going."
Wow.
It was crazy.
I love that.
As much as it.
But then on the flip side of something
It
viral,
angered some people,
you have
right?
some people saying, "Don't tell me."
Right, but
what
here's
I'm
the
not
thing.
doing.
I'm from another country. So for me, this is now home. So I'm not like a typical coach, and I'm not saying our coaches is like, I'm just talking. I'm not like a typical coach that comes in, wants to get paid, and wants to get out.
Yes.
Like, I made Oxford home.
Yeah, you have.
I'm
and
at
it's
the
been
PTAs.
incredible.
I'm
Yes.
at Kroger. Like, I'm in the mix.
I see you at Kroger.
You
Yeah,
are.
I'm in
Coach
the-
Yo goes to Kroger, by the way. That's true.
Walmart. Look, I don't have any NIL deals, so I don't want to piggly wiggly.
We are not sponsored.
Right,
we are not sponsored.
Right.
I
I go
this
to these
podcast may sponsor.
Right. I go to these places and like I'm in the mix. PTO. I'm in the mix.
Yes.
So for me, it was a call out to the people I'm in the mix with.
100%.
And said like, come on.
We've been through this trenches from 0 and 16.
And catch up.
Yes.
Because everywhere this thing, and I want to win so bad. You cannot win big if you don't have the fans and administration behind you. I don't care how good you are.
Yeah.
Yes.
You need the fans.
Yes, you do.
You do.
And you hear coaches complain about it all the time, and they're like, oh, don't tell me what to do. And I get that.
Yes.
Here's the truth, too. Oxford does have an idealism about them sometimes where it's like, we're like, don't tell us. Like,
Yeah, there is some of that. There is some of that. No
who
doubt.
are you talking
We've
to?
been
You know
here.
what I mean?
We've been here a long time. We'll go to
yeah,
the games when we feel like
when
going.
we feel like, and it's
Uh-huh.
like, no, we are at a place right now, every sport, where if the fans get behind us,
Yes.
it can be a difference maker
Yes.
to what we're trying to do. And
It is.
And I spoke it, and look what happened. Record numbers.
And then
Right.
you spoke that truth. And I, by the way, I would not have asked that question if I wasn't one on the really pulling for you.
Yeah.
And you came through that stronger, and you came
then we
through
beat
that with more
Tennessee.
support. And then that's what happened is
hello.
the team and you put your money where
Yeah.
your mouth was.
They-
So you backed it up with the product. Your team backed you
They
up
backed
with
me.
the product.
They saw it. They felt.
and guess what? The crowds
Yeah,
came on
they
out.
came. They saw it. They felt what was going on, and yeah, I just love this place, and I think we can do great things. And so
Yes.
I'm a coach, so I'm always gonna want more and better.
Yeah.
And guess what? That's what's being asked of you.
Exactly.
And that's what's being asked of the players.
Correct.
So, you know what?
Correct.
Let's do this together.
Yeah, but I did learn, after reflecting, because I did realize too that our situation is very unique.
It is. It is a small community at the end of the day. I mean,
And
there's
so they're
25,000
pulled-
residents.
They're pulled every which way.
Yeah.
And so weekday games are very tough for
Weekday
us.
games are tough.
Yeah, but my thing is like, you prioritize what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I wish we're playing in a smaller place. If we were still playing in the Tide Pad,
Yeah.
if it was souped up,
Yeah.
I would love it because
Interesting.
Soup up the
Yeah.
dad. You heard it
Right.
from Coach Yo.
because
You get that whole
the crowd is on top
environment.
of you, and you don't need much. I was in Swisher Gymnasium at Jacksonville, and they held 1,500,
But that 1,500 was cooking.
and we sold out every night, and it was jam-packed. And so sometimes it's a disadvantage that we have such a beautiful arena.
Right.
Because it's impossible to pack it out all the time.
Yeah, and it is hard. But what's been fun is watching in a small market like this, because I know a lot of people, and I've seen, and they're bringing children in, and they're coming in from Jackson and south of Jackson on weekday games a lot now, and they're coming. So it's a learn thing, I guess. People come, they have a good experience, they come back. And really, I don't want to embarrass you, but you have the product of the team and how you come together, but you are bringing something so special. So this kind of no ceilings concept that you bring. Tell me about what that is.
Yeah, well, no ceilings is so it started. I had a player when I was an assistant coach. She said, "Coach, when you become a head coach, what is going to be your saying?" I'm like, I don't know what my saying is. I'm trying to be a great assistant right now.
Like, I'm just trying to get there.
Yeah.
She says, "I think it should be no ceilings." And I said, "Why would you say that?" And Nikki Dixon, and she says, because no matter what we do, you always think we can do better. And I think that's what you should go with. And so I went with it.
Wow.
And so no ceilings means that, there's no limit to what you can accomplish in life. And when you think you've done, like you've gotten to the top, you can always go a little further. And and it resonates for women, because a lot of times women are told how far they can go. And then, okay, that's enough.
I was about to
That's
say,
enough.
Sure.
So no ceilings means, hey, go ahead and break those ceilings and let's go out and do it. Yeah.
Well, and I think you're in a really interesting spot, because there aren't a whole lot of sports where men play basically the exact same sport.
Yeah.
There's lots of variety. Baseball, softball, what have you.
Yeah.
But you're in a really interesting spot where at a big SEC school, there's a men's team and there's a women's team playing on the same court, the same arena.
And vying for a lot of the same fans.
Yes.
How do you use your position as coach to empower the players on your team to feel just as important, just as accomplished as athletes as, the counterpart of the men's team?
Well, I'll tell you this. Again, Keith Carter is just phenomenal. There has never been a time where I felt like we were second fiddle since I've been here. Like, I've just been blown away by the university's commitment to make things equal. All right? But at the same time, we recognize that while it is the same sport, we are selling two different things.
Right.
And we're up against two different battles. You go to a middle school game, at the boys' game, they got a crowd.
Yes.
So, like, they're raised to be a part and be crowds. You go to the girls' game, not so much. So we are trying to change the narrative and the culture behind women's basketball. Because now you have multi-billion-dollar deals that people are signing. I mean, it's
changing and fast.
Oh, my goodness, y'all.
And how cool to be
such a cool time to
be
be
part of.
Oh, man.
Right.
Such a cool
with so
time.
many eyes and recognition and interest, just interest.
Yes.
And so for you, any time like this, though, also because in everything, when the bar goes up, it gets a lot harder to balance on that bar. So how do you as a coach, keep you've talked about your family a little bit and keeping you grounded, but players in this environment, their mental health probably matters more than ever right now. I mean, it's real. The challenges that they face because of the enhanced pressure. How do you try to keep that chemistry? I mean, it's a challenge.
Yeah. The last 4 years, I've become a big advocate of mental wellness. I wasn't always an advocate of it because we didn't talk about it coming up. Not in my generation.
Sure, not in mine. Let me tell you.
It was suck it up. And,
get it.
And keep moving. And so my players kind of taught me the importance of mental wellness. And so I started incorporating mental health days for my players.
Oh, nice. Really?
Where if
you could maybe take a little break.
Take a day.
Wow.
Wow.
Take a day.
No kidding.
They never abused it.
Yeah.
They never abused it. If they really felt like they couldn't function.
I need a breather.
Right. And then my first meeting for the start of the school year, I spent about 30 minutes talking to them about the resources we have at the university,
Mm-hmm.
why it is important,
Nice.
how to prioritize that for themselves. So it's really a culture in my program
Yes.
Yeah.
where mental wellness, like, don't wait until something's bad. Just,
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
let's make it a part
Yeah.
of. We're going to do this
Yeah.
together. Sometimes they're going to be hard.
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah,
talk
let's
about
talk
it,
about it.
and just
Exactly.
know I'm okay
Yeah.
with you. I want you to utilize
Utilize it.
Yeah.
Don't be embarrassed. Don't be ashamed.
Mm-hmm.
To the point now, this year I just started therapy.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh.
I never went.
Yeah.
I would always be an advocate for it, but
Yeah.
I'm preaching it. I'm like, I need to live what
Maybe
I'm
I
preaching.
need to, and
Yeah.
I've been in that boat as well,
Yeah.
where I've preached it and thought, yeah, maybe I should.
Yeah, I'm like-
but it is amazing what you once you do it, you think, it's like almost when you go in, sometimes in a healthier standpoint, it's like what the growth you get out of it's incredible.
I
right?
know it. I
Because
know.
you start talking and you're
Yeah.
like, well, yeah,
Yeah.
that I'm so glad you shared
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is,
And I'm pretty transparent with my players, so
Mhm.
their new thing now is, man, coach, that therapy must be working. You're like,
You're like,
that's
yeah.
their new thing with me. It's the therapy. I'm
Well,
like, first of all, it's
that's
maturity.
pretty good.
Yeah. Well,
That's pretty good.
Speaking of maturing, I mean, you've been here for 7 years. For about, however many you were crawling, like we were talking about. And now I feel like the program is in this really cool spot where you've got your feet on the ground and you're ready to take off. If you, who, you're today, you're in this position, really exciting season ahead. If you could go back to that 0-16 Coach Yo, what would you want her to know? What would you tell her?
Yeah.
Exactly what my friends would tell me. They'd say, just you're good enough.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was a moment I
Yeah.
questioned if I was good enough.
Mm.
And if there are coaches that watch this or adults, anybody in leadership roles, you're gonna get to a point where you question if you're good enough.
You
Yeah.
just absolutely
I'm
will.
telling you.
You absolutely will.
Now with social media, anybody can get that
the
abuse.
comparison game.
Oh, and just what you fill your mind in,
Sure.
how people talk to you, and so I would tell her to just keep going, keep building, because that is what my friends told me when I called. When I hit my lowest point, one of my friends called me out the blue, and I couldn't even get a word out. And she said, "You're enough. You're good enough."
Wow.
And I said, I don't know if I'm good enough for this. I don't know that I can do
Right.
this job.
Yeah, I mean, you had a
Yeah.
monumentous mental amount of work to do.
Yeah.
And you put your head down and
Yeah.
you crawled
Yes.
and
yes.
you
And
got
now,
up and now
Yeah, right.
And
that's why I say from 0-16 to Sweet 16.
You're
Yeah.
right. Sweet
And what a
16.
crazy underdog story.
Yeah.
Everyone loves that.
Everyone like ate it up.
And the
Mhm.
fact that even in that moment when you saw that buzzer of the 16th loss, you were like, this is going to make for an even better comeback
Yeah.
story
Oh
than
my
if we were
gosh.
1-15.
Oh,
That doesn't ring.
I became a better. I
Who
feel-
wants 1 and
right,
15
right.
when you can be 0 and 16? That's
Right.
all I'm saying.
I became a better coach in that year
Wow.
Yeah.
because
yeah.
I had to
Yeah,
look
you did.
myself in the mirror and ask myself, why do you do this?
Mhm.
Do you do it for the wins,
Mhm.
or do you do it because you say that you love it to teach, develop, and inspire? And if that is the case, then you can't worry about the outcome. I promise you, that is when it turned for me
Yeah.
to be a better coach.
And it took 16 losses. So what are you looking
Well,
forward
around 7 losses, I was like, okay, God.
to? You're like, okay, I get it.
It didn't take getting the number 16 for that pain to really stick in.
But what do you think you're looking most forward to in this next season? What have you been missing?
Well, this year our word is joy. And last year we had a lot of
Hey,
success.
that's my word too. I'm
Yeah.
coming to
There you
every
go. There
game.
you
I'm
go.
coming. I'm coming all the time. That's my word
There you
too.
go. Yeah. So what happened was last year we had a lot of expectations.
Yeah.
And then we had our point guard went down with an ACL
Yes, I
injury. We
remember
lost
that.
him for the year.
Mhm.
And I felt myself slipping into a depressive state for like a month.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the rest of the season, it was painful for me to coach. We made history, won 12
Sure you
games.
did.
Right.
Went to, got out the second went to the second round of the NCAA tournament. It was only 32 teams remaining.
Right.
But I kept saying to my player, who's now on my staff, one of my former players, I said, something was missing. And she's sitting on my couch. I'm sitting on my couch. I said, I just can't put my finger on it. And it came to me.
Yeah.
And I said, I know what it is. And she said, what? I said, let me sleep on it. I slept on it, and the word in my meditation the following morning was about joy. I said, that is our word. Our one word for this year is joy, and it means there will be ebbs and flows. There will be times where you don't feel like you can make it, but you have to have joy in your heart because that's consistent. And the joy is gratitude, and the joy is understanding why you do what you do. And so that is what I am holding myself and our team accountable to, is finding that joy.
Yeah, because in a way, you're living your dream.
Yeah. Oh,
and
every day.
and
Living the dream.
and so are the girls on your team.
Every
Like
day.
I played upward basketball in fifth grade, and I thought I was going to be a point guard at a college school. That didn't happen. But
They
what
weren't
I'm
even
saying
keeping
is,
score, but it was a
no,
win every
they
time.
were not, and I got fouled out every game. But anyways, it was just one of those things where you're in this moment where you're all living your
Living the
dream,
dream
and
that-
you forget.
Listen,
You forget.
I'm so glad you said that. I remember we had lost 2 games last year. I was ready to I was like, this is not, I'm like in a bad mood.
Yeah.
I go to church because I'm like, God, I need you to say something to me. And the word was, the theme was, don't take your blessings for granted. And one of the words that the preacher said was, do not allow your blessings, don't be disgruntled about your blessings just because things are not going the way you want it. After that, we won 8 games in a row.
Wow.
It's perspective.
It
I'm
is
telling you.
perspective.
And
Like
we're
you said,
so
I'm
quick
living
to
my dream.
forget.
It's
quick
the
to
job
forget.
you called Ross Bjork in.
Yes.
And you said, yeah.
And said,
Yes.
you asked for this, so
I
so
asked
you
for it.
got it.
I got
I'm
it.
gonna make you look like a genius. And
Mhm.
what ways do you feel like this season? I mean, you've got to expect that you're gonna forget. You know,
Yeah,
that you're
oh,
living your
yeah.
dream. What ways are you gonna instill reminders of? Whoa.
Right.
This is where I always wanted
Yeah.
to be and never thought I would be.
I mean, it's on our shirts, our warm-up shirts. It's joy. I have it on my armband.
I think we're going to adopt this season because
Yeah.
that's kind of what that's my
Yeah.
word. I mean, people say like, "How you've been through all this? What happened?" I was like, "We just fought for joy and found
That's
it,
it.
and it changes everything.
That's
it doesn't mean that every day's easy. It doesn't mean I
Correct.
won't get some more losses.
Correct.
However,
However.
you know what? We're going to come right back.
And I'm always gonna remember that call I made to Ross.
Yeah, you
know?
always
And
remember
he
that call.
will too. Especially after this
that's right.
season.
Even though he's at Texas A&M, I mean, no, he's left Texas
he
A&M. He's
since
already
moved.
moved off.
know.
He's already moved off again. And so far, so after 2 more moves, I'm not even keeping
Right,
count of where he is now. She
But
is
wherever he
Coach Yo, head coach of the women's basketball team, the phenomenal women's basketball team.
Team 50.
That's it, right, at the
50
University of
years.
Mississippi.
Wow.
We will wrap it up by me saying this on 50 years. I spent a lot of time around those. I moved away from Oxford for 13 years in my adult years, but I grew up here, and one thing you don't know about me is I do love basketball and played all the way through high school. And what happened is back in those days growing up in Oxford, they didn't even lock the facilities. So we played basketball when I was 13 and 14 on a regular basis in the Tadpad.
No way.
We did. And so we knew Van and we knew the other coaches. And Van was a character, right?
Still is.
Let me be clear. Van Chancellor is still a character.
Still is.
Some things never change.
And let me tell you what Van started figuring out we were playing in there. And so here come the women's team ready to practice, and we're still on the court. And one day, Van's like, Magee, come here, son. How about y'all stick around, and how about we scrimmage y'all? So by then, I was like 15 or something. And we get in this half-court scrimmage, and I mean, I get Jennifer Gillum coming over my back about 7 inches taller. It felt like
no.
ripping a rebound over my head, turn around and squared and drop step back. And I was like,
I'm out.
Let me tell you, this
That's
stuff is
legit.
real. And so scrimmaging sometimes with Van Chancellor when they were building a women's program gave me such a deep appreciation.
Yeah.
And I've loved what you've done. We're down with this joy thing.
Yes.
And I tell everybody, listen, even if this isn't your school, you got to love Coach Yo, and you will love her players and the way they play. Check it out. We're going to be cheering for that joy this year.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. Hey, come back and see us next week, and follow us on social media, A Little Crazy Podcast, and sign up for our newsletter. It's easy. It's a Substack. It's at alittlecrazy.com. We shall see you next week.